is Miriam, Granny Keto. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I also want to do a little housekeeping and ask you please to subscribe. And also, I realize there is a share button. Feel free to share this to your friends and the various groups that you're in. Also, I'd like to invite you to my podcast, Chew the Fat with Granny Keto. And the past couple of weeks, I'll repeat myself here. I'm looking for couples to interview on my podcast. Either if both of you are doing keto or just one is doing keto, the other one looking to support, or not keto at all, and rather doing something along the line of my Granny Transitions keto program. And so I also have a Facebook page, Granny Keto LLC, and I'd like to invite you to that as well. So today is it's the third. I'm all confused because I have to set my timer. One thing on the brain at a time. My little cow this week. Okay, so this is the third in a series of Do I Have to? The first week was Do I Have to Fast? Nope. The second week, do I have to eat organic and grass-fed? No. Do you see a trend here? This week is Do Calories Count? No. All right. Ultimately, they do, and I'll get to that later, but I just want to talk a little bit about this. There is a current trend in dieting, and not even current, but forever and ever, as long as we can remember, called CICO, C-I-C-O. Guess. Calories in, calories out. And obviously, this just does not work. It works for some people. It may work if the people are changing what they eat unintentionally, maybe going low carb. They just say, well, I cut out the bread and the potatoes. Well, what is that? But in terms of calories, no, we cannot measure the calories out. We are not computers. We are not machines. And the thing is that obesity, and I wrote it out here because if you take notes, I want you to write this down also. Obesity is a hormonal issue. And so what we need to deal with is insulin. And if you have high insulin, you cannot get rid of your fat stores. And how do you get high insulin? Lots of carbs equals high insulin. So the thing is that and this is my theory of why things like Weight Watchers doesn't work in the long term, and in the short term it does. You are reducing your calories, and if you're used to eating 2,000 or 3,000 calories a day and you go to 1,200 or 1,300, you are going to lose weight. But this isn't sustainable. And the thing is that when you're eating all of these 100-calorie packs, what they are is they're pure carbohydrates. And so what happens is you never really bring down your insulin and you never really bring down your blood sugar. So you have high insulin, you keep your fat stores. So that you could be saying, but I'm exercising. I go to the gym an hour a day and I have a standing desk and not a sitting desk. There's something called NEAT. NEAT, and I'm reading this so I don't forget what it is. Non-energy activity thermogenesis. That means everything that's not going to the gym for an hour, okay? It is digesting your food. It's sitting here talking to you. And the thing is that you hear about a resting metabolic rate, but the thing is, thinking, the synapses in your brain, every time something fires, that's energy. Every time like potassium is released into your blood, that's energy. All of this is energy. And you can probably, in a lab with a lot of sophisticated equipment, probably maybe come close to figuring that out, but you just can't figure it out with a calculator. We are not calculators. And so to say, energy in, energy out, who's to say how much energy? And not only that, if you'll notice on the more sophisticated machines, like if let's say you go on a treadmill and you put in 3.2 miles and you go and it says 272 calories burned. Well, no. It is your age, it is your fitness level, it is your general your own personal metabolic rate. Do you burn this energy very quickly? Do you burn it very slowly? Are you thinking about things like a lot of times, like people? There are people who will say when you're running, when you're rowing, when you're exercising, don't listen to the podcasts and don't listen, because the thing is that takes energy. You have to be focused on the work that you're doing. So, listen to all of that. Who's to say how many calories you burn? And not only that, but you burn and you burn and you burn. Something pays for that. You talk about adrenal fatigue or your metabolism slowing down. And, oh, excuse me, I didn't shut off my notifications. And so the thing is that even the calories, you maybe can measure the calories in, but I get something to say about that. But your calories out, there's no way to measure. You are not a machine. And even with the most sophisticated stuff going on, there is no way to exactly know this. And you can kill yourself with exercise. Something else is paying for that, okay? You just don't, and you don't know how much you personally are burning. Okay. And in terms of the calories in, I said I was going to say something about that too. These foods, in order to get, there's the calorie and the kilocalorie, and you measure this, like how many units of energy are burned in a minute, in a second, whatever, and then they come to the caloric value of the food, and that's all good. I mean, you can do that, but let's say you put your calories into one of the trackers. Okay, my Fitness Pal, Carb Manager, Chronometer as I guess I've heard is pretty good, but a lot of these vary. Some of them are built on the USDA, and you figure that's all in a lab and it's all done perfectly. Um, that's okay. Maybe you can come to this, but last week we talked about organic food and grass-fed food and nutrient-dense food. Is the calories in this piece of lettuce really the same as the calories in that piece of lettuce? Okay, is the calories in the cream from these grass-fed cows from this dairy, is it exactly the same as the calories in the cream from the cows in this dairy? There's a lot of variation, and I don't think that calories in, calories out is really an exact science, okay? So we're just going to say calories really don't count in that sense. What you eat is what makes the difference. If you cut down your carbs, okay, and you're eating fat, you're eating low carb, you're eating moderate protein, you will moderate your insulin or keep your insulin down. And when your insulin is down or you've reached a healthy insulin, then the fat stores will start to disappear. And this is what makes the difference, okay? When you go in to start keto, no one, I don't care what school they're in, what camp they're part of, nobody is going to tell you to count calories. But I want to mention something here, because when I say ultimately calories count, all right? And I've talked about this in other YouTube videos as well, is that lost my train of thought. This is something, I'm not reading a script. Okay, so the thing is that your oh my goodness gracious. I have somebody who helps me with these YouTube videos. Either she'll laugh hysterically and say keep it in, or she'll cut it out. Remember what I was going to say. When I was saying that calories ultimately do count, I just wanted to say that this sort of ties into the different camps of eat more fat, don't eat more fat. Okay? Eventually, if you're in this to lose weight, you do want to burn your own body fat. So I wouldn't suggest eating 3,000 or 4,000 calories, because if let's say you stay to 20 carbs, and let's say you moderate your protein and you're having like 80 grams of protein, or if you're a guy, maybe 100 grams of protein, and then you say, but I'm going to eat fat to satiety, you may actually consume thousands of calories in fat, and you don't want to do that. You want to burn your own body fat. So when I say that calories don't count, they don't count in losing weight. It doesn't, you eat this many calories and then you spend an hour on the treadmill. That's what I'm saying doesn't work. But if you're stalled with your weight loss, what I would do is first I would take a good look at your carbohydrates. If you've been doing net, maybe change to total. If you've been total and not counting, let's say, salads and above ground green vegetables, maybe start counting them. I do a mixture of net and total. If I hit a wall, I would stop that and I'd say, I'm just going to count my total carbs and I'm going to keep it to 20. If you're eating moderate protein, but you have a range of that protein, and you say, okay, well, I'm eating 50 to 80 grams of protein, then maybe I'd say, okay, let me try 75, let me try 70. If I'm eating a lot of fat, I might say, okay, well, I'm not going to have my bulletproof coffee. Let's say that's the one with the butter or the ghee and the cream, and you could consume 400-500 calories just with a coffee. And you say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that now. I'll just have cream in my coffee. I'll have that ribeye with the nice fat around it. I won't add a pat of butter. Okay, so because the thing is, it's not that the fat is bad, because fat will not raise your insulin. Okay, and because of that, your fat stores will release, but it just might be too much food for your system. And it's not, like I said, it's not that it's too much fat. That's not the issue. It's just that fat is 9 grams of calories per gram of fat. Okay, so it's 9 calories. So if you're eating 200 grams of fat, that is 1,800 calories. Maybe have 150 grams of fat, or maybe turn it back to 175 and see if you lose weight. So all I'm saying is that it's not as simple as calories in, calories out. But ultimately, if you hit a wall and you're not stalling, cut back a little bit. The first thing I would look at is your carbohydrates. And there's something called carb creep. And it's like, I use a tablespoon measure in my coffee, and I take it and I dump it in, and then there's a little cream that sticks to the spoon. So when I do my tablespoon, I add a little more for the stuff that had stuck from the first time. We all play games, all right? So the thing is you fool around with that, or you fool around with the carbs, or you fool around with, the protein and that. And I'm not saying get crazy. I'm really a proponent of not weighing and measuring. I think you can do keto calmly, all right? But the thing is if you hit the wall, look at these things. And if you're overshooting some of these things, everything has a calorie, okay? So that's why I say calories ultimately count. But let's say you're eating 30 carbs and you go back to 20. Okay, and so that is just a short it's only four grams of calories per carb. So let's say you take out the 10 carbs, you go from 30 to 20. That's only 40 calories. That's not a lot. The difference it's making is you're cutting out your carbs. So your insulin is lower, you're able to reduce your fat stores. So even with that, we're not talking a tremendous amount of calories. A little bit more with the fat, because the fat is 9 calories per gram. So if you fiddle with the fat a little bit, you are dropping calories, but it's not momentous. It's just enough to maybe get things going again. Where you want to pay attention is this, because obesity is a hormonal issue. Insulin is the mother hormone there. So if you can bring down your insulin by bringing down the amount of carbohydrates you eat, you will lose weight. So I always say 100 calories worth of Oreo cookies is not the same as 100 calories of broccoli. Your body processes it differently. So that ultimately, although you may cut back a little bit on your carbs or cut a little bit back on your fat, it's not this major calories in, calories out thing going on. Okay? And you're not going to be hungry. We don't want you to be hungry. Just remember, you are not a computer. You are not a machine. You really have to control your metabolism through hormones, through controlling insulin, through controlling how many carbs you eat. This is the secret, not calories in, calories out. So when you start, if you're asking these questions, you may be new to keto. So if you ask, do calories matter on keto? No, they do not. We do not. This is not a calorie in, calorie out diet. I just went on to talk about how many grams of calories are in a gram of food, just to say that once in a while you need an adjustment, but that's not the same as saying, okay, well, I wasn't losing weight on 1,800 calories, so now I'm going to go to 1,500 calories, and I wasn't losing weight on 1,500 calories, so I'm going to 1,200 calories. We're not talking about that kind of calorie in and calorie out. So please don't pay attention to calories. Other than ultimately, if you hit that wall, maybe don't add the butter to the ribeye, okay? But that's about as far as it goes with having to count calories. So anyway, that answer is no. So next week, we have one more in our do I have to? Do I have to count macros? That's my favorite. And if you want to go back and watch the 4 videos before this one, okay? And please go to grannyketo.com. Sign up for Dancing with Keto. You can almost consider that your educational text for next week's video. And it talks about just doing keto from the heart, saying, this doesn't feel right. How do you get to that point where this doesn't feel right? I'm eating too much fat. I'm eating this, had too many carbs. This piece of meat was too big. How do you get there? Do you count macros? If you want to, but the answer to that question is no. But please go to grannyketo.com, sign up for Dancing with Keto. You'll be really happy that you did that. Come to my Facebook page, Granny Keto LLC, and if you are watching this and you're a couple, not just a couple doing keto, but let's say you're doing keto and your spouse isn't, you might be a really good set of people to have, because I teach how to support, as well as do keto. How do you support the person who is doing keto? So please be in touch, grannyketo@gmail.com, and let me know if you're interested. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.